Dr. Stephanie Canistraro, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Would you call yourself the Vegas Queen, or is it Vegas Queen? Like,
Vegas?
How's my pronunciation?
I think it's Vegas is what it's what I say at least. And if I'm the queen, I guess that's what it is.
It's too early to comment on your appearance, but I have to say I'm loving the cat eye thing, the thing you've done.
Oh, I've had the same makeup. If you look at like a grade 8 picture, even when it wasn't in style, it was my style. Like, I have not changed it. I'm not kidding.
I feel you. When you find something that works, why mess with it?
I know. And then it came into style. It might go back out, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll be ready.
Let me introduce you. Yeah, exactly. Let me introduce you, and then we'll get right into it.
Perfect.
Dr. Stephanie Canistraro graduated with honors from the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College. Prior to that, she received an honors of a Bachelor of Science degree with a major in biochemistry from the University of Western Ontario. She has completed the Contemporary Medical Acupuncture Course at McMaster University, as well as Biomedical Dry Needling. She is currently a consulting practitioner for players at the Toronto Maple Leafs, Nashville Predators, Vancouver Canucks, New York Islanders, Ace Tennis, Toronto Tennis Club, and individual Hollywood actors and actresses alike. Her passion lies in concussions, degenerative neurological diseases, and gastrointestinal issues. Dr. Stephanie, g'day.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm a pleasure. Can you tell me, like, what have you done today? Like, what's the average day for you?
Honestly, it's so different. Like, right now I'm in Raleigh for the first time, actually. The players get traded around. And so I work with a lot of athletes. So, I mean, I have a virtual clinic, but like being here is sometimes necessary. So yeah, I try and train people in different areas to try and help out the players when I'm not here. So, I mean, today was a different day because I woke up in Raleigh and I grounded on the earth because that's what I try to do. And it's beautiful here. Like, I didn't know, like, it feels like I'm in like the cottage country or something, like these huge trees. So anyways, I just enjoyed that. And then I've been working online, and then later I'll work in person with some people.
Yeah, got it. So does that mean that, like, when players have been traded around, do teams have you appraise a player and see how healthy they are before maybe trading them? It sounds like we're buying and selling people, but does that ever happen?
No, I mean, that would probably be a good idea, but they don't quite, I don't work with the organizations. I work individually with players. So they hire me kind of third party. And historically, it's been a lot of like performance optimization. But, as the world gets more toxic and people get more sick, I think we're seeing with athletes, like, I don't know if you've noticed all of these, like, this player dropped on the field, like all these cardiac issues. Like, I've been dealing with some serious stuff with them this year.
Wow, what a thing to bring up so early on. I was not planning to go there, but I would love to know your take on why athletes are dropping and having these cardiological issues. What's going on there?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of theories, and I guess that's what I have to call them at this point. But when something happens and there's like a huge change in the population, you have to look at externally what's happened and what's happened at an individual level, right? Because seems to be widespread. It's not just in North America. It's not just in Europe. It's not just, it's kind of all over. And, there's even being they're even trying to coin a term called sudden adult death syndrome. And they're trying to coin terms or they're putting it out there in the news. Like, you'll see flashes of napping too much can cause cardiac arrest, or the heat waves are causing, and it seems like they're like kind of priming you. But I mean, I don't know how controversial that you want me to get, so I don't really know how to answer this question.
Well, it would make sense to me, because let's just clarify what we're talking about. We're talking about pro athletes here, some of the most resilient bodies known to man, right, on this earth right now, are literally dropping dead. Is that right?
Yeah. Young, healthy.
Right. So, young, healthy people right now that they were the least at risk of this pandemic thing that we've gone through. I'm not even going to say the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now, and you know, it was a one size fits all by our governments, Australia included, and America. It was like, everybody needs to lock down. Everybody needs to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs to get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, with anything in health, one size never fits all.
No.
Dietarily, care, and one size never fits all.
No.
So I'm going to go out before you even have to say it and say, I don't think with this, you know, this big V, I'm not even going to say its name, that without a doubt, because it did cause myocarditis, they knew that it caused myocarditis in young, healthy men, that doing it to a huge portion of the population was going to cause problems. But we're talking about not just young, healthy men. We're talking about the healthiest young men in the population. So I'm going to say it before you do. I think it was the big V.
Yeah. And I think that's a big, huge proportion of it. And I mean, you know, the problem is that nothing, like when you introduce at any other time, if you introduce like a therapy to someone, or if you're doing a study, which we just went through a huge experiment, like every single side effect is followed for years sometimes, right? Because there's a lot of drugs that come out onto the market and you don't even know they have a side effect until years have passed. And so we're starting to learn more about it, like more about what's in it, more about this technology. But there is people who are at higher risk, right? And they can be really healthy people, but there's like certain metalloproteases. So the way our body break down certain of the chemicals inside of it, some people can break it down better, some people can't. And that exact ingredient in there can cause disruption to our endothelial lining, which is the lining of all of our blood vessels, leading us to not necessarily get clots right away. And the problem is a lot of them are micro clots. So, you know, and like the virus can do this as well, right? But when you're taking like the infective part of a virus, and that's what you're making the body become like a manufacturer of, and then there's other things in there that have to be irritants to make our immune system react the way they want it to make us immune, which I don't know if you've noticed, but they're not making you immune. So like, and they're still being suggested. So just to me, and like, it's almost like I'm just scared for the humanity, because where's like, why don't we have any common sense anymore? Like most people can see this and decipher it, but you know, something else on top of this that is like less controversial because less people are talking about it is actually this emergence of 5G technology, which actually started being released onto humans in March 2020 at the same time. And I don't know if you know, but it was fully released in January, February 2022. But there was like a slow, you know, where the towers went up. But with 5G, you actually need these like micro things that optimize it. It has to be like on every block. So you'll start to see like little antennas everywhere. And they're not even there yet. But so something that, and like the reason that the heart became like a huge thing, not just for other people, like I don't know if you saw, but I had my own heart issues this year. I've never had a heart problem in my entire life.
Yeah.
I hadn't had COVID, and I suffered immensely with my heart going crazy. And I happened to be in Las Vegas at that time, where they have something called 5G plus. I was also treating a whole bunch of patients who had just got the capital V. So there is the whole, I don't know if you've heard of them shedding, right? Which is
shedding. Yes.
Yeah. Which has, you know, I just went to a conference where a well-known doctor that's studying the V's like explained like how this is all like it's pretty much now they know that it's doing like everything that people were hypothesizing, like the whole shedding. Everyone was saying, oh, so I've had changes since my partner got it, and you know, whatever it is. But those are two things that happen. But in Vegas, they have something called 5G plus. So it's like an experiment on top of an experiment. So they're taking this wave that humans haven't adapted to, that's like, you know, detrimental. They even on animal studies, they saw it was detrimental. There was no human studies. We know that it affects like your voltage gated calcium channels, which, calcium is the most tightly regulated mineral in our body. Okay. And it's it can kill you if it's too high. It can kill you if it's too low. Well, what they're seeing is this technology causes your cells, and especially people who have, other past infections. And I had some past history of things, which we can get into, but it causes calcium to influx into the cell and then damages the cell, and then calcium leaks out. So a lot of myself and a lot of the players that I've seen have had, that are having heart problems that were lucky enough to not just drop dead. They're having high calcium, like there's a lot of stuff, but high iron. So it's almost like, we have these pathogens, or if you have COVID, it damages your cells. There's more iron in your body. There's more calcium. And then you're more of an antenna. It makes you an antenna. And then you're actually attracting more of this like EMF and Wi-Fi. And then for people who are at risk, and that's what more studies need to be done, then they're getting a lot of these heart symptoms. So I think it's a big, like a lot of things happen this year that, we definitely have the things that are pretty obvious. And then the things that some people aren't talking about that should be like maybe made more aware of, like, and that's like, so I do a lot of like harmonizing for EMFs and grounding and stuff like that, because those are ways that you can kind of, neutralize that kind of technology coming at you. Right. So we're always just trying to find answers to help. Yeah.
Got it. How common are these problems, these heart problems that are happening to young men? Is it young women too?
So, I mean, it is young women as well. Yeah, for sure. So I work with a lot of athletes and their wives, and we're seeing it, but I'd say it's more in men. And if you think of like cardiovascular output when you're a player, like there is more stress on their heart. So, I mean, there's been like from January 1st, 2021 to January 1st, 2022, there was like 120 players that collapsed. Okay. It's going to be more for this year. Like usually collapsed, not all of them died, but they all collapsed and had serious heart problems. I can't remember how many actually passed away. But that number is usually like in the teens, that's like a huge jump. That is like insane.
Yeah. Are we talking about players just in the NFL or in the hockey, or are we talking about athletes across America?
Those are just athletes that it made the news for. And it's just across North America and Europe. And that's only the ones that made the news, because like I personally know 2 people on one team that didn't make the news, like they didn't get reported. Mm-hmm. So,
well, this is madness, but let's talk about how we can mitigate 5G. How do you make sure that you're not being affected by this incredible like technology that seems to make like Wi-Fi stronger? It has to have an effect on us. Mm-hmm. And I always think about it as, remember how you used to have those old Nokias? And if you put the Nokia near the speaker, you'd hear a
exactly.
when a text was coming through. Exactly. And I was thinking, iPhones are obviously much, much stronger now. Like all smartphones are much, much stronger. So I imagine that wavelength, and this is maybe it's just me, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but it would be all day long, right next to our heads, like right near our bodies. And so how do we mitigate that?
Yeah.
How do we help ourselves?
You can go so deep in that, creating like a sleep haven is one thing I do, like, especially people that are sick. So like making sure, like simple things, if you live in a condo, like if you get like a grounding sheet, or some people take like these big vats of soil with like a bigger plant, and then they put like a copper wire and attach it onto a sheet to get like more grounding like that. But you want to like be grounded as much as you can. You can turn off your Wi-Fi router. I kept something beside me. So I have these bag of rocks. They're like Tesla rocks. I'll show you in here what it looks like. But they take a one directional wave, which is like those millimeter waves, those microwaves that we're getting exposed to, which are coming at us in a single direction. Like humans are better at absorbing like scalar tech, which is like coming like if you were to, you can measure the energy around a human. A healthy human is like giving off light, like it's coming off in all directions. Does that make sense? So if you imagine like something really strong,
Okay.
like cutting into your kind of energy field, right? We're all energetic beings.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
Yes.
So these rocks, so I mean, it's so funny because I probably would have made fun of this stuff in my past life, like before, you know.
I make fun of it. I make fun of it right now.
I know.
Like, this is hilarious.
I know.
Have you seen those memes where it's like, what was going to protect you from the devil?
Yeah.
And it's like a laughing soundtrack, and it's like a guy with some like cute little crystals.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
please show us these Tesla rocks.
Yeah. So they're these rocks, and this is them. They're simple. They're from the earth. They're deep in the earth, and they absorb like the without us knowing it, the bad energy essentially, and make it into something scalar that our body can deal with. So it's like a harmonizer. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
So like when I'm traveling, because when you're traveling, you're getting exposed to a ton of radiation because like people are downloading Wi-Fi now on the planes, right?
Right.
And so think about it. You're in a metal cage. You're in metal and you're on a plane and everyone's now downloading Wi-Fi. So it comes at you like in all these directions. So this is a little travel bag of them that you can take with you. And like I was having electrical heart problems. So like these, I have everything with me when I travel and it's really helping me. And then to ground on a plane, I just switched from at night to planes, but you know what? I'm just going to go with it right now. So when you're on a plane,
Yep. Go on.
So this is the travel one, but I have a bigger bag that can sit on your bed. But so that's one of the things I'm using right now. When you're on a flight, other things that you can do with having this travel thing as well is you take your sock off or like get your heel exposed and you get your heel to touch the metal under your seat. And that helps, like static electricity inside you will go into that metal. So it kind of takes away that extra static that starts to form in your body from getting those exposures. But I'll circle back to the airplane. Unplugging your Wi-Fi, if you can do that. Don't sleep with your phone in the room. I mean, these are simple things that you can do. Like some people are going crazy and they're painting their walls with like, you know, silver paint that helps like nothing get in, but there's someone that can come in and test your home and see like which walls are getting way more exposure and you can paint those walls. Like, I mean, that's what I mean. We can go so deep but little things I'm doing are, I always have those like rocks on me. I'm grounding on the earth, getting into the ocean like that. If you can just get yourself on the earth, you're going to discharge a lot of that dirty electricity that's coming through your body.
Yeah, and I've always wondered about that, you know, this grounding, the idea of getting on the earth. What does that mean as far as like, I'm always barefoot, right? I never wear shoes. Even when I go for a walk outside, I'll walk down the street happily, even busy streets in LA, as dirty as they are. I just don't like shoes, right? So, but what about like, does concrete ground you?
Yeah.
Or have you got to be on dirt and grass?
There's like different levels of like grounding, like being like this sand on the beach is going to be like your strongest. A moving river or stream, you know, grass is good, but you know, like now there's pesticide on grass, but like still you got to pick your evil. So like, it's just, you know, you can't be like living in a bubble. So yeah, on the earth is the best, but like even concrete, you're still discharging, like it's rocks and stuff, you still discharge. So yeah, there's just different levels, but just bare feet on the ground, sitting, like get your, you know, skin touching the earth. Hugging a tree is a good way to ground if you don't can't take your shoes off. People have caught me hugging trees, like just touching them even. Like it's so funny.
I love the idea. I love the idea that you're that nut. And that I bet you take your top off to do it too, just to get as much skin contact with that tree. Hilarious.
Just stripping.
I just want to say, hilarious. I just want to say one thing. You say bag. Are you from Canada?
Yeah.
Bag?
What did I say?
Okay, I was going to say like, you said like you're talking about your bag of rocks. Bag. And I was like, I was wondering if you're Canadian or is it Chicago or like,
I don't know. I've been a lot of places lately, but I thought I said bag, but I'm saying bag.
No, you say bag, like it's bag. There's a particular way that you're saying that's bag that's interesting to me that I had to call out. I recently got a thing called a Soma Vedic. Have you heard of these? It's
yeah, I do. Oh, yeah.
It's next to my son's. My son's room is next to mine. I have it next to his bed. It's a light.
This is the one you charge on top of it. It's the one you charge on top of it. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to me, and it's brand new technology that I had no idea really existed. But that's what they say, that they mitigate EMFs. And I've put it in the room, in my son's room, which is next to mine, which is also near where the Wi-Fi is. Exactly. But it's probably a good idea to just go and unplug the Wi-Fi completely so that it switches off at night, so that you can at least have 12 hours. What is it? 10 hours that we sleep, or 8 hours where it's just nothing. There's nothing there. Yeah.
And you might be getting exposed to other Wi-Fi. So I definitely have Soma Vedic. I think the rocks were just something I'm looking at right now. But like there's different like similar technologies like at different price ranges that you can get that can like mitigate for like a whole 20,000 square feet. So there's like the Soma Vedic. There's something called Total Protect or Total Shield. There's like Blue Shield. There's a bunch now, but I would definitely invest in one of those in this day and age, especially people are also by power lines too. Like you want to definitely, the more like geological fields that are coming on you, the more you want to protect.
Yeah, I had AT&T in my backyard the other day installing, I think it was probably the 5G, and I'm not with them. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Mm-hmm. And they were putting in this, they're like, your internet's going to be insane if you join AT&T.
So AT&T is the one doing the 5G plus.
Oh.
Yeah, they're the only ones doing that right now. So that's
right.
Crazy.
I mean, I may as well join it because it's in my backyard now.
I guess so.
And I may as well be getting the good Wi-Fi.
I know.
Rather than just copying the 5G in my and affecting my calcium, like I may as well get the Wi-Fi if I'm going to be dying. So, right?
Oh, see, I know. I'm trying to okay, we got to harmonize. There's no way we're stopping this. Like it's rolled out. Like we have to adapt. So, I mean, other ways, like other things, if you are someone who's EMF sensitive, if you figure that out, like now that I think about it, when I used to wear I had the Apple Watch before I knew it was bad. Like this was like right when it came out. And it would ache. My wrist would ache, like really ache with it on. And I thought I was imagining it, and I would take it off. And so when my heart went kind of haywire, they put a wireless heart monitor on me, and it took my symptoms from like 5 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 where I was having heart attack symptoms. So like, I'll get into all of that and how I healed that. But there's some people that are going to be way more sensitive, and a lot has to do with what's already in their body. So I was tentatively diagnosed with MS 10 years ago, 12 years ago. That's how I got into functional medicine. I was already in chiropractic college, and my health just plummeted out of nowhere. And, you know, a lot of stuff, that's how I got into the field of like looking for parasitic infections and Lyme disease and everything. But I was wrongly told at that time that I didn't have Lyme disease. And it turns out it was in my body, but my body got strong enough to keep it at bay because it's a bacteria. People think you only get it from ticks, but you can get it from mosquitoes, spider bites, from passed on in utero. It can come from sexual partners. It can come from your blood or blood mixing somehow, like blood transfusions, stuff like that. They don't test for it. But it can go, your body, when it's strong and your immune system's functioning, it can make it change into like it's called a round body. So it's like an inactive Lyme disease, but then something happens, like an attack on your body. And I think like COVID's bringing it out a lot. I think the EMFs weakens our immune system. And then these bugs are starting to like rear their ugly heads kind of thing. So they start to be able to procreate and like become pathogenic, which is when you start having symptoms. And I had something called Lyme Carditis. So Lyme embedding in my heart. So my infection went super high, I think. And then, you add the EMF. So what they found with EMF is that it makes whatever's inside your body stronger. So if you don't know you've had Lyme, or if you don't know you have mold toxicity, or if you don't know that you have candida or whatever else it is, then it makes those toxins stronger. So they've showed that in studies. They took a petri dish, they put it near a 5G tower. The petri dish, the mold made 600 times the amount of mycotoxins, and that's what makes us sick from mold. And so if it's already in your body, you can imagine it's did the same thing for Lyme. So that's another thing, and that's why, I think it's more important than ever to be proactive and look for stealth infections. So that's what we do with players is okay, we want to prevent you from having these scary problems people have. And there's ways to test now. And so we're testing for these stealth infections, and it's pretty amazing what we're finding and the changes that we can make. Even players that were already performing at a high level, lowering these stealth pathogenic load, their performance is better. And then their vagus nerve, which is your nerve that helps you stay calm, digest your food. It controls literally every organ in your body. It's what I named my clinic after because my vagus nerve was fully dysfunctioned. That's why I did. And so cause a lot of these bugs, they can infect your vagus nerve. And then people are getting things like POTS, their blood pressure changes going up to standing up from sitting down, and they feel dizzy, a lot of dizziness and weakness and heart problems and all of this. We can trace it back to the vagus nerve having an issue. So that's why that's important. But the toxins and the bugs are what's throwing off people's vagus nerve a lot of the time, and stress and everything else that's going on. But
yeah, I want to get to the vagus nerve, but firstly, let me ask, are you saying that mitigating EMFs and the effects of EMFs is improving the athletic performance of the athletes that you work with?
Yeah, well, that's part of it, but also eradicating those infections that Wi-Fi can make worse. Those hidden infections. They're called stealth because it's not like you do a blood test and the doctor's like, you have an infection. When I did, it's because they're hidden somewhere. So they go into different areas where they're not easily found. So you have to do advanced testing, and you have to pay money out of your pocket. It's an investment. And then you can find and work through, we use natural medicine to work through lowering these things so that, when you are getting exposed to this EMF that we can't help, or if you are having to get injections that you don't really want, or if you are, that you're just harder to kill. It's we're making people harder to kill, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Let's talk about the vagus nerve now, because I know nothing about it, and I purposefully didn't go looking for much information about it prior to speaking to you because, well, you run a clinic called the Vagus Clinic, and so you must know everything there is to know about it. What is the vagus nerve?
So the vagus nerve is our longest cranial nerve. So we have 12 cranial nerves. That means they come off our brain or our brain stem. But the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve, and it goes from your brain all the way into your intestines. It innervates every organ in your body except for, they say, the adrenal glands and the last half part of your bowel. But what it does is it's a parasympathetic nerve. So it's in charge of our rest and digest side of our nervous system, as opposed to our sympathetic nervous system, which is our stress side of our, everyone's always in sympathetic overdrive. People have heard that before, but we're supposed to be more balanced. If we're not in a state of something attacking us, when athletes are performing at high levels, they're in their sympathetic nervous system, but we want to be able to shut it off and go into parasympathetic. That's when we feel calm, relaxed. We feel like socializing. We can make good eye contact with people. We look healthy. Our face has all of the expressions, right? Because I don't know if you've been around people with a flat affect, their vagus nerve isn't functioning well, and they aren't attracting these social cues because they're not well in some way, and it's setting off their like they're more in sympathetic. But then another doctor broke it down more. So they broke it down to like, there's two parts of your vagus nerve. One is the front of it and one is the back. So there's two branches that come off your brainstem. And the front branch, that's the one you want more active. And that's when people are more in their, they're more able to socialize. Then there's the sympathetic nervous system, and that's when people are stressed. And then there's the shutdown, which is the second half of our vagus nerve. And that is when it's called your dorsal vagal. It's the one that comes from behind the ventral, which is the front one. So I'm trying to explain it in layman's terms, but I'm not sure I'm doing a good job.
Yeah,
but,
thank you. No, you are. You're doing a great job. I can get it.
Okay. And so if you're in the dorsal vagal, that's when you're in shutdown. So you can picture like, so some people, if they're sick, they're stressed. They're in like fight or flight, like they're like wired and tired, right? And then there's the people who can't get out of bed. Those are people who are in shut off, like they're shut off, they're in their dorsal vagal. So that's just a theory, but it does make sense, right? So and based on that, a lot of people are using different therapies to try and, turn on that ventral vagal, which is like the one where you're socializing, happy, healthy. So your vagus nerve has anti-inflammatory capacity. It helps you regulate your immune system. Like I said, it helps you socialize. It helps you to digest. It helps you to really just, it's your vitality. Like when someone looks healthy and they're vital, like they're in good kind of vagal tone, I guess. And there's ways to train it because we're inundated with so much stress in our daily lives. We're the only like mammals who can, with our own thoughts, put ourselves into fight or flight, right? We can stress ourselves out as if something's happening that's not even happening, that's not even true. And in our own body, like we actually can have the exact same physiological effects as if those awful things were happening, right? So ways to train that and is to do all of like the vagal nerve kind of training, which is becoming like more and more popular, as it kind of starts to trend.
Yeah, right. I want to hear how we can tone and, go into our vagal nerve. But firstly, I just want to find out, like, I suppose it's probably a good thing to be able to, like, it's kind of like cortisol. Like you need cortisol to live, but also you don't want to have elevated cortisol all the time.
Yeah.
And I imagine that you don't want to be in your sympathetic all the time. You do need it. Like at certain points, you're going to need 100%. It. Like if you are an athlete, you're going to need to go to the sympathetic. So we're talking about something that you shouldn't always be in your vagal nerve. You shouldn't always be in this, social state, whatever. You should be able to, you kind of should be looking to be able to go between the two. And a lot of the time, people with chronic stress and stress problems, or even I imagine athletes who have a lot to do, like they live crazy lives, highly stimulated lives. They need to be able to stop and go to the other. I hear about this when I hear about men coming home from work or women coming home from work, and they have to adjust from their work life into family life. And so a lot of people kind of do breathing exercises and things like that. That's what we're talking about, right? We're going from states that are necessary into other states that are necessary in order to be balanced human beings.
Exactly. It's about balance because you just, like I said, you don't want to keep yourself in that state. You should be flexible. It's just like if an animal is getting, like they're running from a bear, like who's trying to attack them, like they're going to go into a sympathetic state. And then after it's done, it's like they forgot about it. Like if they get away from the bear and they're now grazing, they're not thinking about, oh my God, I just ran from a bear and the bear almost killed me. And they switch right back into their parasympathetic from their sympathetic, which is the sympathetic. You talked about cortisol. That's what's released. Our body releases cortisol to get us mobilized and ready to react. It protects us. Like it is part of, part of like, we need to be able to switch it on. We need to be able to switch it off. That's the problems that humans have, right? And then what happens is they get stuck in the sympathetic state, which that's when people get diseased. Right. Yeah. So
got it. So you are more likely to be, because your vagus nerves helps and supports your immune system. You're saying that if you're in your sympathetic state too much, you're at more risk of getting sick.
Well, yeah, and that's, you talked about cortisol, right? Cortisol is the kind of the hormone of your sympathetic state, and we all know that prolonged cortisol, like, it starts to deplete your immune system. Like, short-term cortisol can be anti-inflammatory. In short-term, cortisol does what it has to, but if it's high over time, then everything gets imbalanced, and everything we were talking about is about balance, balancing sympathetic and parasympathetic, balancing, like, it's everything's about homeostasis, right? We have different sides of our immune system that need to be balanced. So that is like what makes a healthy person, that you're metabolically flexible, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Got it. So let's talk about how to tone, and would that be the correct terminology? How to tone our vagus nerve?
Yeah, that's been, I guess, the term that most people are using, activating your vagus nerve. I mean, there's simple things like, people are doing cold plunges of their whole body, but even just like putting ice on your neck or ice on your face activates your vagus nerve. So your vagus nerve comes out the base of your skull. It's most superficial right here at the tragus of your ear. And then it comes down and it goes under your collarbone. So right here on your neck, and right here is where you can ice those areas, like, and then also massage them. But I have a whole toothpick technique that has helped me, like, with severe panic. But if you just do it on a regular basis, it really is calming, and people try it. But I do acupuncture. So, I was on a plane and I was like, I don't have any acupuncture, but I had a toothpick. So I started like tapping my vagus nerve, right? And like tapping places where it's superficial, but there's like other homeostatic points in your body that I teach people, but you tap it and it has a small surface area and it activates the nerve. So that's something that I get people to do. Humming, gargling, gagging, breathing, like deep breaths with a long exhale activates your vagus nerve because it's in charge of the exhale part of your...
I've lost you. Oh. 1 second. See if you come back. You there? I got you.
Oh, okay.
Steph?
Yep.
Sorry. Okay. Let's go from humming, gargling. That's where you were at.
Okay. Humming, gargling, gagging, deep breath. So taking a deep breath in.
Gagging?
Gagging. Yeah. Your gag reflex.
Gagging?
Yeah.
Wow.
Aggressively gagging yourself turns on your vagus nerve.
Oh my!
I can only imagine where your mind's going right now.
Well, I'm just like, why aren't porn stars more, vaguely activated?
Well, maybe they are. I mean,
I guess they don't really gag because they've actually gotten rid of their gag reflex.
Got rid of their gag
why.
reflex. That's not good. That's not good. Yeah, but that's
okay.
a
A bit of gagging.
one.
That's interesting.
That's a powerful one.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because it innervates the back of your palate, your soft palate. So like one way where I'm like, if I'm working with a patient and I'm looking, I get them to say, when the doctor says, open your mouth and say, they're looking at like the back of your palate to see that it raises at the same time. And if it deviates to one side, then we know that your vagus nerve is not functioning or stuck on one side or there's a problem. Yeah. So then you can kind of work with that. Other things are, EMF blocking, like we were talking about, getting rid of stealth infections. Those are like the deeper things that you can do. We talked about cold plunges. We talked about the toothpick. There's essential oils that you can smell that help turn on the vagus nerve. Things like frankincense, bergamot, lavender. There are sounds like, have you ever, a tuning fork, when you hit a tuning fork and have you ever had an ear test done?
Okay. Yeah. I know the tuning fork that you're talking about. You tap it against the thing. Musicians tend to have them.
Yeah. So the 528 hertz, you can get that tuning fork, or you can listen to 528 hertz on your phone, and that can activate it. That frequency activates your vagus nerve. Also,
and Spotify has a playlist, by the way, of 528 hertz.
Exactly.
So you can go and play that. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that thing that's like so common now? MDSR, that it's like the sounds, like people are doing it so often.
ASMR?
ASMR. Thank you.
ASMR?
That can help. Like those sounds are calming, but there's a whole like protocol by Dr. Stephen Porges that's all based on sounds to turn on your vagus nerve. And he like clears trauma using sound therapy. So there's binaural beats, there's 528 hertz, there's ASMR, as you were, which I couldn't remember. Thank you so much. And then another big one is far gazing, or like, remember how I said your facial expressions, when people have that like flat affect, like, so it's like forcing yourself to smile or puffing out your cheeks, a lot of tongue exercises. So taking your tongue and like going like all these different things with your tongue. That really helps.
Got it.
And then also far gazing. So I said that the vagus nerve was a cranial nerve, and we have multiple cranial nerves, but the way our body works, we're wrapped in fascia. So fascial lines can help pull and wake up the vagus nerve. So far gazing is one of them. And I get people to use this a lot at night, like if they can't sleep, because the vagus nerve can help you sleep. But it was really studied for people to look at the horizon in the morning. So you wake up with the sun, and then you gaze across by keeping your head straight, but you gaze as far as you can across the horizon. And that was found to activate your vagus nerve. So we're having people, so you get in a position and you put your arms up and you have pressure on the base of your skull. And lying down is the most comfortable position. So you're like this, and then you can have your eyes open or closed, but you're going to literally like gaze as far as you can without turning your head to one side and then the other, but you've got to hold it for 15 to 30 seconds and you'll feel yourself relax. And
it doesn't feel very relaxing, because it feels like your eyes are straining or something.
So you do. It strains your eyes a bit. Don't strain them too much. Just don't pull.
I'll be too vaguely activated.
Yeah. No, because I mean, obviously, like you be gentle, like with the eye movement, but that you're pulling the nerve for your eye, like the cranial nerve that innervates your eye, which comes close off of where the vagus nerve does, and it helps to get some blood flow there and stuff. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it, like that are minimally invasive, and then there's electronic ways to do it. So you could put on the tragus of your ear. You put it on your left ear because I think it's more effective. And you clip it on, and it's just electrical impulses that go through your ear. Like that's a certain frequency that turns on the vagus nerve. There's also like ones now that you can just stim over top of. People are coming out with a lot because they're seeing how therapeutic it can be for multiple diseases, autoimmune diseases, all of this. So there's even an implant one for people that have really bad seizures, where they can implant and people can zap their own vagus nerve. That is obviously extreme, but they have been reversing seizures in people with that. They've been reversing. I had one girl even tapping her vagus nerve. She had epilepsy her whole life, and she could stop her seizures with the toothpick tapping her vagus nerve. So it's pretty powerful.
And so just up here, she would have been tapping, or she tapped all over the vagus. Like, did she tap just here particularly, or where does the vagus nerve run, and where does she tap?
So she tapped like up and down here. So she was going down all the way to the collarbone. The collarbone's it goes in behind the collarbone, but anywhere where there's like tender, but there's different points. Like there's points in your hand like that help, right? Because even like hand massages, foot massages, scalp massages will all take tension off of your vagus nerve. And that can also help, pretty much think about when you're stressed, anything that could kind of help you relax is probably helping your vagus nerve.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so it's just kind of become clear to me. When your vagus nerve is tense, it means that you're in the sympathetic.
Yeah.
And when you relax your vagus nerve, that's when you're kind of in the social state that you were just mentioning, the rest and digest.
Yeah, well, when you turn it on, right? When you turn on your vagus nerve, right? When
when you turn it on, it relaxes.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. I mean, it's so when a great times to do that would be when you're chronically stressed, when you feel overwhelmed, or when you are going in to see your family, or coming from work life to family life, or sitting about going from a work call to sitting with your partner, would be a good time to do those sort of things.
Yeah, I think so. Just it also brings you back into the moment. Deep breathing can help multiple things, but really focusing on that longer exhale is really where you get the most kind of relaxation or the turning on of your vagus nerve, because it's in charge of the exhale.
Got it. So, interesting. Oh, that's so interesting. So that's what people are talking about when they say, if you're going to do breathing exercises, try either box breathing or even I've heard of 4-7-8, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. So that's the exhale is longer than the inhale.
That's the vagal nerve breath is the longer exhale. So think about if you're in a stress state, you're shallow breathing, right? And so that's you can even just forcing the 4-4-4 will turn on the vagus nerve. But if you can exhale longer, then it's more powerful.
Okay. I think I just lost you, but I think I was lost. So it didn't really matter because I think it recorded. Shane, are we okay? Everything's okay? Oh, great. I just froze for a second. No worries. Thanks, mate. Cheers. Okay, so I was introduced to you because a friend of mine, her husband plays for the New York. What are they called? The New York Rangers, the New York
Islanders. There's the Rangers and the Islanders.
The Islanders. The Rangers and the Islanders. I think he's a Ranger, or maybe he's an Islander. I don't know, but she mentioned to me that you particularly work with players who've been concussed. Can you tell me a little bit about that work?
Yeah. So again, this all stemmed from my own experience. I was actually early in my career working on the sidelines. I got hit in the head with a puck and I had a really, really bad concussion. And that's what got me and it made my gut worse. So I started looking into gut brain connection. And then I started and I was already working with athletes, from the day I graduated. And so my, I was having to cancel on them and I was explaining, oh, this is what happened to me. And so they're like, yeah, my head hasn't been the same. And then my stomach got bad. And so I started doing a lot of stool testing and stuff with players and finding they had severe leaky gut or lots of parasite infections. And then I would work on their gut and their brain, and their post-concussive got better. There was a specific player that this was really profound in. And I mean, I'm bringing together manual therapy. So I was doing acupuncture on the vagus nerve. But then I started, like I said, digging into what's going on the inside, more of that approach, and then kind of married those two things together and then used nutraceuticals that help seal up the gut lining. And when you heal the gut lining, you actually heal the blood-brain barrier. And so the vagus nerve is a direct connection, right? It's a direct connection from the brain to the gut. So it's like a highway that bugs can use to go into the brain. So what I found was that these players had a lot of these infections, and that made them more prone to get a long concussion, post-concussive symptoms. So really, based on my own experience, I just started really looking at what's going on in their gut to help heal their brain. So along with using manual therapy and other eye exercises, whatever else that kind of came together when it's that complex case for a post-concussive issue, and started getting success. And then that's just kind of built from there.
Yeah, got it. So can you tell me about the nutraceuticals that you use or recommend for people to heal their gut lining?
Yeah, and it's a case by case basis, and I have like a bunch of different tools in the toolbox, but there's one called Repair Vite, which is like a mix of like glutamine and different amino acids that feed our gut lining, along with different immunoglobulins that help fight off like whatever bugs are there. And then we're using other things like to clear parasites. So that's one of the ones that heals the lining. The other one, like sometimes we use straight glutamine. It really depends on their needs and the testing that we find.
Sure.
But like, yeah, GI Revive, like so they have different like mucolytic properties. Like some people need more help with the mucus lining and some people need help more with the actual cells. So like based on that, we'll come up with what we're using for their lining. But, that's like a big part of sealing it up. Obviously there's diet, and we're also lowering toxins. So we use a lot of binders. So they're like little black pills.
Okay.
And, people have heard of charcoal as a binder. People drink too much, they take activated charcoal, where there's things called humic and fulvic acid. And humic and fulvic acid will take a load off, like, because what happens when we have leaky gut is too many toxins are getting into our bloodstream, crossing our blood-brain barrier, right? So we're using these binders to bind them up, and then it irreversibly binds them, and then we poop them out or pee them out. They're not going to go up and cross the blood-brain barrier. And then we're trying to eradicate parasites or bacteria that's not supposed to be there or that's in the wrong spot. We're working on the liver. So there's like not only one component that comes in that helps to heal the gut lining, because you need to take away certain things that are there, and then you need to give back certain things that aren't there.
Yeah, got it. So dietarily, I'm interested in what you usually recommend for people that you suspect of having any gut issue.
Yeah, again, that varies, but I guess the diet we kind of lean towards is kind of paleo-ish, right? Keep in mind that different people have different like degrees of problems, and sometimes we'll be more strict, but it's more of that like healthy meats, like, grass-fed, grass-finished meats, like, if it's chicken, the chicken had to have been running around. Like chickens, don't buy chickens that they say vegetarian fed, because chickens are meant to eat grubs. They need protein. They don't have B6. Then you're eating diseased chicken. You don't want your chicken's not supposed to be a vegetarian. Okay. They're supposed to eat stuff. So if we're doing that, chicken, then they're making sure that it's like a certain, wild game meat, organs, we're utilizing like plants that are less inflammatory, because certain plants have certain protective mechanisms. So, when we're trying to work on the lining, there's things like different lectins and different things that are in phytochemicals that are in plants that will be harmful for the gut lining. So we're staying away from like grains. We're making sure that it's organic, because we don't want you to be having like a dose of glyphosate, which is pesticide, every time, because that's going to kill your good bacteria in your gut. And your good bacteria is what protects your lining, right? And then, it's not like we're like, you can't have fruit. Like we're working with athletes, they need carbs. So like we work around, we just try to find the cleanest for that person based on that case, but we're always leaning towards a more paleo-like diet if I'm going to generalize.
Yeah, got it. And I suppose like the need for a tennis player, for instance, of like carbohydrate, or even ice hockey players, I imagine, they do need a lot of carbohydrates in order to perform at their athletic peak, correct?
Yeah, there's like a perfect amount of like glycogen stores that's going to support specific athletic output. So, when they're doing those fast bursts of energy, and there's different things like hydrating properly before games, and we do a lot of like little hacks that kind of can help them too. But yeah, they definitely need carbs to an extent, and you can become metabolically flexible, but like a lot of guys aren't wanting to do like super low carb, and it's not necessary a lot of the time, but sometimes it is when we have to starve out a lot of bad bugs. Like we might go pretty low carb for like some of the off season, stuff like that. So it's there's like a fine line, but they do need carbohydrates. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. And now, just because I have you here, tell me about their hydration, like how they do that. Like in order to perform at their best, how are they hydrating before games?
So, I mean, I'm getting them to hydrate throughout the day. We use electrolytes, sometimes just salt, sometimes salt and water, sometimes like not just salt, but like mineralized salts, like healthy ones that,
right. Yeah.
And they're drinking, like a liter that day because their games are usually at night. And it's not always the same, but we also have them doing some pregame stuff that helps them, like with specific minerals. Like we use something called CT minerals or some minerals from another company, that help to rebalance all of their kind of minerals. And then we see definitely better performance, and it's protective for their heart as well.
Got it. Amazing. So let's talk, we're going to play a game now. It's called Zaddy Quick, but you got to say it like this. You got to say Zaddy Quick. And I'm going to say words or just things. And you just give me the first thing that jumps into your head. It can be like single word answer. You can give me a sentence, but first thing that jumps into your head when I say, are you ready?
Uh-huh.
Sunscreen.
Wait. Oh, I want you to, what do you mean? What am I supposed to do?
You just, whatever jumps into your head when I say, in your professional opinion, I say sunscreen, you say...
Zinc oxide.
And are you a fan?
I like it sometimes. If you're going to be out in the sun really long, I'm not good at this.
What are you talking about? You're great at this. Okay, you ready? Next. Tap water.
No.
Good.
No.
The problem, finish this sentence. The problem with Western medicine is?
They don't listen to their patients. They are not looking for the root cause. They gaslight too much. I don't know where to start.
This is good. You're good at this game. Next, veganism.
Oh, epic fail. Not good.
Love it. Okay, cool. MCT oils.
Time and a place, but they can give you the runs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and if that's what you're looking for, in context, if that's what you want, that's what you're going for.
I use it for that sometimes, but yeah. I mean, I got so much on MCT oil. Anyway.
No, I bet you do. I bet that we could go for another hour on MCTs. What about fasting for women?
Oh, gosh. Personal experience, it really screwed up my hormones. I did it for too long improperly. I think there's a way to do it, but you got to be careful. And someone that knows has to be like coaching along. Yeah,
right. I mean, I fast from 8 at night or 9 o'clock at night through till midday the next day, noon the next day. And I think that works for me. But for a woman, that would not be the case, right? You've got to be kind of like watching your nutrition and making sure that you're getting enough in throughout the day. And it's actually not good for hormone health in general, is it?
No, but it can be really good in like short spurts, but I think over time it can stress the body. Like and I've had that personally, and I've seen it with other people. It's like I was like so lean and I felt so good, and then I crashed and I went puffy and fat, and I didn't change anything else like at all. Personally, that happened to me. I was loving fasting. I've tried all of the trend. Like I said no to vegan. I was vegan. I got super sick, and I was doing it well. So anyway, it's all like not just personal experience, but I work with a lot of ex-vegans or people that we make ex-vegans. Yeah.
I love it. Listen, Dr. Stephanie Canistraro, you've been a joy. It's been awesome talking to you. I feel like I could pick your brain forever. But listen, how do we find you? How do we stay in contact with you?
So on Instagram, it's I hate saying this. I got to change it. It's at Dr. Canestraro. I'm going to make it something easier. And then Vegas Clinic, we have on Instagram, and then www.vegasclinic.com or www.healyourgutfirst.com. Right now is our main ways of finding us.
Love it. Dr. Stephanie, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. It was fun.